Barkley. Nobody cut him off. Barkley went all the way for the slam. And now Barkley gets into it. He is Lampier. And now there are some punches thrown. Baseline to Wallace. Barkley puts it up. Does it count? It does. Jake O'Donnell said it counted. Jake O'Donnell said it's good. Oh my goodness.
Sir Charles, the round mound of rebound. An undersized beast of a power forward whose skill set was almost ahead of its time, and whose toughness and tenacity rivaled that of any player who ever took the court.
I wouldn't want Fisher necessarily to take that shot that fast.
Oh, and there's a swing by O'Neal, and they got a brouhaha on the field.
From Alabama to the Hall of Fame, from the hardwood to the broadcast booth. This is the story behind Charles Barkley. Charles was born to Frank and Charcy Barkley on February 20th, 1963 in Leeds, Alabama. A bout with anemia required a complete blood transfusion at only 6 weeks old, and more adversity was still to come. Barkley's parents divorced when he was still a baby, at which point Frank moved to California and out of Charles's life. Charcy remarried to Clee Glenn years later, but Glenn died in a car accident when Charles was only 11, leaving his mother and grandmother to continue raising Barkley and his siblings. Though basketball was an escape for the young Barkley, it didn't exactly look like his calling. The pudgy youngster didn't even make the varsity team at Leeds High School as a junior. Then a growth spurt saw Barkley sprout from 5'10" to 6'4", and a star was born. He not only made varsity as a senior, he averaged more than 19 points and 17 rebounds to lead Leeds High all the way to the Alabama State semifinals, where an Auburn assistant coach encountered Barkley for the first time. One of my assistants called me and said, "Sonny, you're not going to believe this, but there's a fat guy here who can play like the wind." Then Auburn head coach Sonny Smith told Michael Wilbon in 1984. I said, "You're right, I don't believe it," Smith added. Seeing was about to be believing for Smith and the Tigers, though.
63-41. Richmond really makes you pay. Oh, there goes Barkley. Look out for this one. Here comes Barkley. Oh, that is a thunder slam, they call it. 15 points for Barkley.
Over 3 years at Auburn, Barkley, a 6'4" player listed at 6'6" and playing center in an era of behemoths, averaged 14.1 points, 9.6 rebounds, 1.7 blocks, and 1.6 assists on 62.6% shooting. He was an All-SEC selection all 3 years, the SEC Player of the Year in 1984, and a second-team All-American. His dominant play and boundless energy made him a fan favorite, while his weight and generally stocky physique earned him the nickname Boy Gorge, among many others.
Hello, I'm Charles Barkley of the Auburn Tigers. Here are a few of my nicknames. The Bread Truck, the Love Boat, Food World, the Frisco Kid, which is my second favorite, the Wide Loaf from Leeds, Town of Fun, the Good Time Blimp. But my favorite is the Round Mound of Rebound.
The Round Mound of Rebound led Auburn to the school's first ever NCAA tournament appearance in his junior year of 1983-84. Though the 5th-seeded Tigers lost a nail-biter to 12th-seeded Richmond, it wasn't for lack of effort on Barkley's part, as the NBA-bound star poured in 23 points on 8 of 10 shooting to go along with 17 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Barkley looked like a lock to play on Bobby Knight's 1984 Olympic team. But whether due to his 284-pound frame or a stylistic clash with Knight, Barkley didn't make the cut despite dominating the Team USA trials. In any event, Barkley's performance at those trials, which effectively bookended a spectacular collegiate career, only bolstered his NBA credentials, and the Philadelphia 76ers made him the 5th overall pick at the star-studded 1984 draft.
The Round Mound of Rebound, tipping the scales, the latest at 300 pounds. He is one of the most exciting players to come out of college, and he now will be alongside Julius Erving and Moses Malone in the city of brotherly love.
Despite coming off a 52-win season in 83-84, the Dr. J and Malone-led Sixers found themselves with a top 5 pick thanks to a 1978 trade with the Clippers that sent World B. Free to San Diego. Understandably, Barkley joined a Sixers team with immense expectations. Philly was only a year removed from a championship that capped off a run of 3 finals appearances in 4 seasons. The Sixers had also made the playoffs 9 years in a row when Barkley arrived, and their 52 wins the season prior were actually the team's worst mark in 5 years. Adding one of the best young players on the planet to a perennial contender anchored by 2 future Hall of Famers was supposed to result in more finals runs for Philadelphia, but it wasn't meant to be. Barkley made the 1984-85 All-Rookie team while becoming a key contributor on a 58-win Sixers squad, then averaged a double-double in his first playoffs, as Philly marched all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they'd fall to the mighty Celtics. Lessons were learned in Barkley's year as an NBA freshman, most notably from Moses Malone, whose guidance and tutelage meant so much to the rookie that Barkley came to know Malone as dad. With Malone helping him get in better shape, Barkley took a giant step in his second season as a pro and first year as a full-time starter. He became a 20 points per game scorer, averaged a double-double, generally stuffed the stat sheet, and made the All-NBA second team, his first of 11 straight appearances on an All-NBA team. Still, it wasn't enough to get Philadelphia back to the promised land, as the 54-win Sixers fell short against Milwaukee in a second-round 7-game epic, with the Bucks winning Game 7 thanks to a late goaltending call on Barkley. Though the Sixers would remain competitive as Barkley ascended to superstardom, the end of an era was at hand. Malone was traded to Washington in '86, and Dr. J retired in '87. Over the next 6 years, Barkley averaged roughly 26 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block on 58% shooting, kickstarting a run of 11 straight All-Star appearances. He won the rebounding title in 1987, made 4 straight All-NBA first teams between '88 and '91, and finished top 6 in MVP voting 6 straight years, including a runner-up finish to Magic Johnson in 1990, despite receiving 11 more first-place votes. He also won All-Star Game MVP in '91. Yet during those 6 seasons, the Sixers won 2 measly playoff series, and just 2 total second-round games, ultimately going 10-16 in 26 playoff games, despite Barkley averaging roughly 25, 13, and 5 on 62% true shooting in nearly 42 minutes per game. Though Mo Cheeks and Hersey Hawkins made All-Star contributions at various points during that 6-year run, Barkley had nowhere near enough help. After Barkley and Hawkins, Philly's most used players in the playoffs over that span were Ron Anderson, Rick Mahorn, and Mike Gminski. No season summed up Barkley's Philadelphia tenure quite like the '87-'88 campaign, as Barkley averaged a career-high 28.3 points on dazzling efficiency while logging more minutes than he would in any of his 16 NBA seasons, only to see the Sixers miss the playoffs with a 36-46 record. Though Barkley's lackluster defense certainly left a lot to be desired, Philly's futility had nothing to do with the Chuckster, and when the Sixers missed the playoffs again in 1991-92, enough was enough. Barkley requested a trade after 8 years in the city of brotherly love. Words can't do justice to the magnitude of Barkley hitting the trade market in the early 90s. The star power forward was, at worst, a top 5 player, was still squarely in his prime at 27 years old, and was already being talked about as one of the greatest of all time. Entering the '92 offseason, Barkley was one of 12 players in league history who had made at least 7 All-NBA teams through their first 8 years. Of course, Barkley came with his fair share of baggage, too. While he was making a name for himself as one of the most dominant ballers to ever live, Barkley had also earned himself a reputation as one of the most controversial and unpredictable athletes the sports world had ever seen. There was a 1990 fight with Bill Laimbeer.
Now he and Laimbeer start shoving each other. And now Barkley gets into it, and he and Laimbeer. And now there are some punches thrown. Now we got a little, not a little melee, a big melee, and there were punches thrown.
There was a 1991 controversy that saw Barkley accidentally spit on a young fan in New Jersey while trying to get retribution against another fan who was allegedly heckling the big man with racial slurs. That incident damaged Barkley's reputation more than any other, though Barkley, who was suspended 1 game for the encounter, profusely apologized and even befriended the little girl, gifting her with tickets to future games. Barkley got into it with fans so often, he even lost count of how many times he was arrested for it.
I've been arrested, I think, 4 times for hitting fans. I was wrong.
How many?
4 times, I think. I was wrong.
No, 6.
I think it's either 6 or 4.
Whatever it is, I think
what are we arguing? How many times you hit a
It's 6. I know what it is.
Barkley's combination of on-court excellence and petulance culminated in an infamous Nike commercial.
I am not a role model. I'm not paid to be a role model. I am paid to wreak havoc on the basketball court. Parents should be role models. Just because I dunk a basketball doesn't mean I should raise your kids.
The iconic ad sparked debate and became an instant classic. It was so polarizing that then Commissioner David Stern wouldn't allow Barkley to wear any NBA licensed gear in the TV spot. Barkley's off-court reputation in the early 90s notwithstanding, the pitiful return Philly received for him was mind-boggling. After backing out of a trade that would have sent Barkley to the Lakers for Eldon Campbell and an aging James Worthy, the Sixers agreed to one of the worst trades in sports history, sending Barkley to Phoenix for Jeff Hornacek, Andrew Lang, and Tim Perry. Hornacek was coming off an All-Star appearance, but that also turned out to be his only All-Star appearance. Hornacek did average 19.1 points and a career-high 6.9 assists in his first season in Philly, but he only played 132 games for the Sixers before being traded midway through the 93-94 campaign. Lang had one very forgettable year in Philly, while Perry averaged 7.3 points and 4.3 rebounds over parts of 4 seasons. Barkley, meanwhile, reached another stratosphere on and off the court in Phoenix. A couple weeks after the blockbuster trade, Chuck was suiting up for the most famous basketball team ever assembled, playing a starring role on the gold medal winning Dream Team in the first Olympics to feature NBA players. Dream Team coach Chuck Daly even told Barkley he viewed him as the second best player alive behind Michael Jordan.
I said, I actually agree with you. I said, but you know what? I'm gonna put an end to that next year. And when I got to Phoenix, I told those guys the first day, I said, guys, we're going to the finals. We're gonna play that motherfucker from Chicago. I said, I'm sick of people telling me he's better than me. I just didn't have no help in Philly.
Chuck kept his word. In his first year with the Suns, Barkley put together his most memorable season, averaging 25.6 points, 12.2 rebounds, 5.1 assists, 1.6 steals, and a block to lead the Suns to an NBA best 62 wins, earning league MVP honors for his efforts. Freed from the shackles of a poor supporting cast in Philly, Barkley entered the 93 playoffs with more pressure to win than ever before. Though his efficiency tailed off at times throughout the postseason, Chuck ultimately did all he could to drag Phoenix to the finals, with his Game 7 performance against Seattle in the West Finals going down as one of the finest playoff performances in league history.
Barkley over Tim. Charles Barkley warming up. He now has a dozen.
With the top-seeded Suns' backs against the wall and the entire basketball world questioning whether he could ever win the big one, Barkley poured in 44 points on 12 of 20 shooting to go along with 24 rebounds in 46 minutes of action, as Phoenix beat the Sonics by 13.
With that smile of his, as angry as he can be sometimes, he can light up the city with that smile.
The Suns faced elimination 6 times in '93, with Barkley averaging 29.2 points and 13.8 rebounds in those do-or-die contests, surviving the first 5 until Jordan's Bulls completed their first championship three-peat with a 1-point victory in Game 6 of the finals.
Pippen runs down the lane, dumps it out to Horst. Paxson for 3. Yeah! Yeah! Hits the 3! 3 of 9, 10 seconds left, and the Bulls lead 99-98.
The devastating championship heartbreaker perfectly encapsulated Barkley's career. The Suns and Bulls played to an even draw over 303 minutes of ball, with Barkley averaging 27, 13, and 6 over 6 games. But all anyone will remember is that his team came up short. Back pain and a torn quad limited Barkley in 93-94, to the point he considered retirement. After missing an average of only 6 games per season over his first 9 years, Barkley cracked the 70-game mark only once over his final 7 seasons, during which he averaged 22 missed games per year. Still, he soldiered on. Barkley averaged roughly 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists over his final 3 seasons in Phoenix. But the Suns lost to the eventual champion Rockets in second-round Game 7s 2 years in a row, then fell to the Spurs in the first round in '96. Though Barkley's efficiency and effectiveness waned and the Suns never got back to the finals, there were still plenty of moments of brilliance.
Along the baseline, Barkley 2 more. He's got 56 points. He is 7 away from Michael Jordan's playoff record.
That 56-point performance to eliminate the Warriors in '94 remains tied for the 4th highest playoff output ever. Barkley was traded again in '96, this time to Houston, where Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, and the Rockets were trying to keep their championship window open. In exchange for Barkley, Phoenix received Sam Cassell, Robert Horry, Mark Bryant, and Chuck Brown. Barkley turned in one last All-Star campaign in his debut season as a Rocket, and though Houston's star trio were all well past their primes, Barkley, Olajuwon, and Drexler led the Rockets to 57 wins and a conference finals berth. Of course, because postseason heartbreak hadn't finished toying with Barkley yet, Houston was eliminated on a Game 6 buzzer beater by John Stockton. Barkley's production really began to tail off after that, and though the Rockets remained competitive, replacing Drexler with Scottie Pippen in '98, the team was a first round out 2 years running before missing the playoffs completely in Barkley's final season of 1999-2000. For one final inspiring act, however, Barkley returned from a ruptured quad in only 4 months to ensure that his illustrious career ended on his own terms, not by being helped off the court due to injury.
The basket lays it up, misses. Barkley with a rebound. Gets a bucket in his final game. And there it is. Charles Barkley, 16 wonderful years in the NBA, one of the greats of all time, goes out with a basket.
Though his playing career ended, Barkley never strayed far from the NBA limelight. He immediately became the most entertaining part of TNT's Inside the NBA, though even that hasn't come without controversy. And I'm not even referencing the 2008 DUI that kept him off the air for a couple months.
If I go to San Antonio, I'm gonna get a bunch of churros.
What kind of women are in San Antonio?
Oh, some big old women down there.
Why would you say that?
That's a gold mine for Weight Watchers. As much taxes as these players pay, they deserve some preferential treatment.
For life and death?
Yes.
Yo, they throwing stuff up here.
Hey, Chuck. Chuck, sit down, man.
Though the fire still burns in the Hall of Famer, particularly when cowardly fans hiding behind the protection of security barriers egg him on, a softer Barkley also became more endearing in retirement. There was his 2007 All-Star Weekend race and kiss with legendary ref Dick Bavetta, and countless commercials through the years that have kept Barkley on a TV screen near you, whether you're a basketball fan or not.
So if this is what I gotta do to get you to listen, then take a good look. But my eyes are up here, guys. Lose like a man. Go to WeightWatchers.com.
There's that unmistakable golf swing, millions of dollars in gambling losses, and at one time, even thoughts of a 2014 bid for governor. Charles Barkley has now been a famous TV personality for longer than he was ever a famous basketball player. But we should never forget just how special a talent he was on the court before he ever made a name for himself off of it. He averaged better than 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists over 16 NBA seasons after a collegiate career that saw him named SEC Player of the Decade for the 1980s. He's an 11-time All-Star and 11-time All-NBA selection, a former league MVP who remains one of 6 players in history to amass 23,000 points, 12,000 rebounds, and 4,000 assists. He's a 2-time Olympic gold medalist and was named to both the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams. In an era where big men were hulking Goliaths that rarely strayed from the paint, he excelled as a doughy 6'4" pit bull who could bang with giants in the post or grab a defensive rebound and lead the break the other way. At a time when Jordan's dominance felt inevitable, Barkley was one of the few superstars so damn good, he briefly threatened his airness's reign. Jordan is great, but he doesn't cause all the havoc Charles does. Doc Rivers told the New York Times in 1991, "When he's on his game, I think he has the biggest impact ever." David Robinson added when explaining why he'd take Barkley over Jordan at the time. Though he ultimately came up short in his bid to win a title or knock Jordan off his perch, Barkley's resume has few equals. His career was as unique as his larger-than-life personality. No one can condone everything Charles Barkley did while living life in the public specter, but no one can deny he was ever anything but his authentic self. And that continues to resonate with fans of all ages nearly 4 decades after he first stepped on an NBA court. When somebody asks me if I regret never winning a championship, I don't know how to answer, Barkley explained to Sports Illustrated's Jack McCallum in 2002. It's a two-edged sword. I'm flattered that people put me in the class of players who should have won one. They don't say that about everybody. And of course, I would have rather won one. But you've got to remember what I was thinking when I came into the league. I honestly never thought about championships or anything like that until people started bringing it up. I played basketball because it was my job and because I wanted to get my family out of poverty. That's it.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.